Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, Alpha 3.19.1 remains on the PTU, plus we take a further look at the upcoming updates to Arena Commander and Star Marine for Alpha 3.20. So before we begin, let us kick off with the usual 3.19.1 PTU update. Not a great amount of change since I last updated, but since Tuesday, there has been a couple of new PTU patches, mostly addressing issues with the ASOP terminals and fixing persistent entity streaming bugs. So great to see this ASOP terminal refactor now rolled out. It is a much needed quality of life update that will hopefully just eliminate any issues we have with requesting our ships. And last we heard from the team was on Friday night, stating that there was not going to be a build that day, but they will keep the latest PTU build up over the weekend while they work on further updates. So it looks like they are planning to bring out further fixes and improvements for the PTU before pushing it to live. Again, no one has any idea when it will go to live, but hopefully we're talking soon, because I need to get recording some more Zero to Hero stuff. So this week's Inside Star Citizen was part 2 of the upcoming Arena Commander updates for Alpha 3.20. Now this week's focus was on Star Marine, FPS and experimental modes. And first up, they spoke about FPS combat and of course Star Marine, the FPS game mode. Now this is a place where they want players to not only practice shooting each other without all the respawning in a hospital and so forth from the persistent universe, but it's also very helpful for the developers to gather data for all of the games, Squadron, the PU, and of course Arena Commander itself, which I will talk about more later in the video. Now for Star Marine, they want FPS to be almost a one-for-one replica of the persistent universe, but offer the fun and a quick turnaround that you get from FPS games of a similar type. And for 3.20, they have performed a visual improvement pass on all of the maps for Star Marine, bringing them up to a much better standard and taking them further than what we kind of even see here. But they have also spent a lot of time fixing the bugs and many of the issues that players found frustrating with the various maps. Now for new maps, the Echo 11 map, which isn't new, it's an existing map, but this can now host the elimination game mode, which it couldn't before. They have made some alterations. Plus, they also brought Security Post Korea in as an FPS map, allowing players to use this PU environment to play elimination and other new game modes, which will also be great practice for any orgs, especially pirate orgs, looking to get some practice running together to take this place over without obviously getting a crime stat and causing problems for themselves. Now for the Good Doctor map, they also fixed many bugs here, like all of the trees disappearing from the planet, lighting issues and other issues have also been resolved, and they say it's looking much better again. I honestly can't remember much about how it looked before, but bug fixing is always appreciated. Now, moving on to the experimental modes, these are very important, they say, for the developers, as they will allow CIG to once again utilize Arena Commander and Star Marine for some extremely focused playtesting, which means they can basically set up many bespoke scenarios to really target specific areas of the game and gather data quickly and accurately, which will help for fixing, tuning, and the all-important big old balancing that they will need to do before the game is ready. Now again, this is applicable for not just Arena Commander and Star Marine, but for the persistent universe, and also Squadron 42, which will certainly be in need of a lot of FPS and ship combat balance, so that when this single-player game releases, these areas have had enough thorough testing. Now that said, they also want Arena Commander and Star Marine to be able to be standalone games, sort of on their own, but the big benefit being that all of these games share all the mechanics throughout the project. Now these new experimental modes help CIG to get specific features into our hands much quicker and test anything that they want for a day, a week, even a month if necessary, gathering that data that they need. And the first experimental mode that we will see in Alpha 3.20 is called Single Weapon Elimination. Now this is a game mode that will allow CIG to restrict all players to use a single weapon type, and initially for 3.20 this will be the Arclight pistol, expanding from there to other weapons as time goes on. Now they say the biggest benefit from this game mode is that it will allow CIG to focus test on each individual weapon to ensure that it is balanced as it should be, fix any bugs with them, and make sure they are all where they want them to be. It also makes it easy to test any new weapon that might be created, so when it comes to the PU, where life and death matter a lot more, the weapon is already balanced, it's not OP or underbalanced, so very important. Plus, this game mode allows players to test their actual skill against each other, as they are kind of leveling the playing field, giving everyone the same weapon. Now the next mode is called Gun Rush, which is where all players will start with the same weapon, and then as they get a kill, it will automatically swap that weapon for a different one. And although here it does kind of show the weapons cycling to better weapons as the player gets more kills, I'm sure they could even reverse this whole weapon cycling if they choose to, so that getting more kills will actually give you a worse weapon, making it more challenging, which makes a lot more sense to me. Now, there will also be some weapons that are surprises, they say, plus a nice surprise for whoever gets to the last round. This Gun Rush mode is quite a fast-paced game mode that allows players to gain experience with weapons that, we might not have tried before, but personally, I have never been a great fan of these Gun Rush type modes, but if it offers more choice and fun for the players, while helping CIG to gather more data, then of course I'm down to try it out. Now, on to the final experimental mode that we will see in 3.20. It is called Tonk Royale. And if you are wondering why they say Tonk instead of Tank, it is in honor of an ex-French developer called Corentin Billemont, I think that's how you pronounce it, who pronounced it that way on a video, and unfortunately due to Brexit, I think it was, he could no longer work at CIG for whatever reason. So to keep his memory alive and to honor this guy, the Nova Tank is forever known as the Nova Tonk. Anyway, Tonk Royale will start with 3 maps, one on Hurston, one on Yella, and one on Magda. There will be 3 versions of Tonk Royale. Firstly, Classic Elimination, so basically a solo deathmatch. Second is Squadron Battle, so Team Deathmatch, which allows players to join other players in their tanks, and multi-crew, which will be great fun. And then the third option, which is still being worked on, might not make it in for the first release, but this is called Hardcore Mode, where everybody gets 1 life. And when the Tumbril Storm comes along, they will also add this to the game mode as well. Now for me, this sounds like great fun, and hopefully it means that the Nova Tonk can finally get some love and attention and get a lot of things fixed. It'll be so much fun slogging it out in Tonks, especially working together with other org mates, filling a server with your org and just getting some practice in. Cannot wait. Now after 3.20, they will finish off the Racing Refactor, which makes the maps much faster and merges the Persistent Universe and Arena Commander racing systems together more, making it a lot more streamlined for them, while making it less buggy for us, which will be very nice seeing the racing scene further expand from what we have now. Really looking forward to just one day getting stuck into racing. They will also be working on a betting module, allowing players to bet on races, which was actually intended a long while ago, so it's nice to see this finally making its way in. There is an area at Grim Hex, which was intended to allow players to sit and watch the races, bet on the races as well, but it's just taken so long to get to that point. But finally, there is also a new Infinite Wave Vanduul Swarm, which will also be a lot of fun to work together. So there you go, that is the second part of Inside Star Citizen, and for me personally, with Arena Commander and Star Marine, getting these updates, getting them more in line with the PU, I am very excited to get in and get some practice in, especially working with the org. But most importantly for me, Star Marine and Arena Commander will once again become the test location for all of the pieces of the Star Citizen's PU and Squadron 42 that will need a lot of balancing, ultimately getting the Persistent Universe to a state that is more accurate, less buggy, more refined, and less like an alpha. Now I know for many they have absolutely no interest in Arena Commander or Star Marine, but this will certainly help speed up the development of Star Citizen, allowing the devs to really test anything and everything more thoroughly prior to it even releasing in the PU. But that was Inside Star Citizen, let us move on. So also this week, June's subscriber promotion information was released in a Spectrum post, which I will link below for those interested. Both the Persistent Universe and Squadron 42 monthly reports were sent out on Wednesday. I have already covered the Squadron 42 report in a dedicated video, which is linked in the description below, which talks about many teams working on their final remaining tasks for this single player campaign. So very exciting to hear things are coming to an end for a lot of teams, and they will hopefully transition over to the PU. Talking of which, the Persistent Universe monthly report I will get done next week. As usual, there is a lot of great updates regarding Star Citizen's development. And finally, Star Citizen Live this week was a game dev episode with lead environment artist John Griffith, who you may remember from such Inside Star Citizen shows as Underground, Playground, and Further Underground. This show in particular was just a casual interview with him, discussing his career and experience working on Star Citizen. However, no new development information was gleaned from this episode. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.